we are going to review a hip flexor stretch, and I'm going to show this in different angles. But what we want to do is make sure that we are getting into a good posterior pelvic tilt. So what that's going to do is it's going to adequately stretch our hip flexor, which is in the front of our leg. And it's also going to make sure that we're not hyperextending our spine. Sometimes when people do a hip flexor stretch, they might get into this half kneeling position and they just lean forward. Maybe they feel a tiny bit of a stretch, and then you can see how much of a hyperextension I'm getting into in my lumbar spine. So this is what we are looking to avoid. So when you get into this position, simply think about dropping your hips back. And I'm going to put my hands on my hips. This might help you. So we're going to drop those hips back, and then we're going to tuck underneath us. So we're going to get, pretend that you're a dog or a cat, right? And you have a tail, let's say, and you want to think about tucking your tail in between your legs, and then you're going to lean forward. And now I feel a good stretch right in the front of my hip, and it feels like I physically cannot move forward, right? So you almost will feel like there's a block where you can't move any further. And that's kind of what we're looking for. So now I feel a big, strong stretch in the front of my hip. My glute is on a little bit too, right? So I feel a little bit my glutes working, and I feel this big stretch here. You can hang out here if you want. If you want to make the stretch a little bit more aggressive, you could take this hand, right? So the same side that's down, and cross it over and do a little side body stretch. Breathe into that side. Okay, so let's swap, and I'll show you on my left side. That way you can see a different angle of this. So again, other leg is coming out. We're about a 90-degree angle or so. I'm going to take my hands, put them on my hips, just so that this is a little bit easier of a position to get into. And I'm going to drop my hips back, and I'm going to tuck my butt underneath me, and I'm going to lean forward until I feel a good stretch and it feels like I can't go any further. So that's where I feel it right in through here. Now, again, we have two options. We could just take a couple breaths here. Or if we want to make the stretch a little bit more aggressive, we could take this arm, bring it over into the side here. Think about breathing into these ribs.